Hello, this is Courtney Murdoch from Love Lives On, and today I am speaking with Edie Nathan, a psychotherapist with over 20 years of experience specializing in the integration of psychotherapy and the world of spirituality. So welcome, Edie, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Great to be here with you, Courtney. Thank you.
So the first question I have for you is you speak about finding the grace in your grief. What do you mean by this?
So often when anyone is grieving, they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about it that's graceful. There's nothing about it that feels good. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. But my hope is to bring people into a state of being calm and balanced within their grieving and mourning cycle. So what I'd really like to impart to people is that they can get there. They can do that. And that is a state of grace. That is a state of having an internal equilibrium that feels calm, that feels centered, and you're not like all over the place, feeling like you can't focus, feeling like you don't really want to get out of bed, or all you want to do is stay awake, or you're filled with ruminations of regret or remorse. So grace is about learning to live with your grief in a way that it enables you to live your life. You will never forget, but it's learning how to remember gracefully.
Right. And what are the 7 different ways of responding to trauma and loss?
So there are actually many different ways to respond to trauma and loss. And I actually look at the cycle of trauma and loss as 11 phases. So within those 11 phases, there are probably 7 that are core, and some of which I'm sure your folks have heard about. So we can talk about numbness, and under the umbrella of that first phase, there's numbness, there's shock, there's denial, and these are your protectors. That's going to be your basically home. When something starts to come up, one of these 3 aspects are going to be present. You're either going to go numb, you're going to feel like you're in shock, or you're going to just kind of disappear in a state of denial. Okay? Yeah. So that is, I think, one of the constant 7 different ways that people will respond to trauma and loss. Another way that they respond is through their anger, through their guilt, through their feelings of role confusion. So often when you are dealing with trauma and you're just remembering it, something's triggered you. You don't really know how you got triggered or why your body is responding the way it's responding, but all of a sudden you feel like you can't talk, or all of a sudden your mouth goes dry, or all of a sudden you just want to leave, or you feel angry, and you're confused. It's like, wait, what just happened? And it could have been a smell, a scent. Mm-hmm. Our olfactory scent. Yeah. Our sense of smell is our strongest part of us, right? And that is what will take us right back to a memory, to an incident that happened, mm-hmm. to our grieving, to a loss that is yet to be resolved. So, you smell something, you're not even aware. Like, consciously, you're not aware. But unconsciously, all of a sudden, you're aroused. And your body, the body starts to talk. So that is, certainly another way that we respond to trauma and to loss. So that's 3 or 4. Now, you can also go through forgiveness. You can go through a sense of, okay, I can't keep holding on to what I did or how this person perked on me, but I can go with a sense of they can't hurt me anymore. And so I don't forgive them, but I forgive myself. And it's about holding the spirit in such a way that you're caring for your soul. And maybe by forgiving the self, because there's a lot of negative stuff that we have going on in our minds when there's been trauma. Sometimes we self-blame. Not all the time, but sometimes that does occur. So, having that forgiveness, not going into a remorseful state, which can also happen. You can go into that remorse and you can't stop thinking. You just think over and over and over again, what is going on with me? So that's another effect of trauma and loss. And another way that you might respond is it's like the no-go territory of I'm never going to get in a relationship again. I'm never going to walk down that street again. I'm never going to eat that food again. I'm never going to go to that restaurant again. And, you end up stopping your life. Right, yeah. And that's really not such a great protocol in terms of dealing with your grief, because to stop doesn't mean you're healing. It's like a false sense of healing, if you will. And then your world, what happens to your world, Courtney? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So you really don't want that to happen. Another thing that happens is that people, there are two very distinct types of people. There's the extrovert and the introvert, right? So the introvert handles the way that they heal themselves. They tend to go inside. And the extrovert wants to tell everybody. Yeah. And it's not wrong or right. It's just who we are and how we function. And one of the ways that people will respond is based on whether they're an introvert or an extrovert. So the extrovert probably needs to internalize a little bit more rather than going out there. And the introvert needs to try to get out there a little bit more, try a group, know that they can still go home and recoup their sense of well-being or safety, but going out and talking a little bit more with family, friends, or a counselor, and with the person who's the extrovert to kind of hone in a little bit. Just try to self-soothe without always going externally. So I hope that answered the question.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome.
And you've said that grief may be felt more in phases, as you just said, rather than stages. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. Absolutely. So I don't know if you've heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, but great. Mm-hmm. So she was like one of the first women who really got us talking about death and dying. And she wrote these 5 stages for the dying. And so many people have taken those 5 stages and moved them over to people who are grieving. And yes, people who are grieving may go through those stages. But I see stages as being finite, as in you begin at stage 1, and there's a beginning, middle, and end to that stage, and then you go to stage 2, and there's a beginning, middle, and an end, and it goes throughout those 5 stages. The phases are very different in that they move out in and out of one another. They're very flexible, although in this phase idea, the first phase of the numbness and the shock and the denial, that's like your home base. That's where you kind of get yourself together. So you kind of always go back there. But any of the other phases, you're moving in and out of. So you might go to role confusion, or you might go to the 3 Ds of depression and feeling just really out of sorts, or you might go to rage. And wherever you go to first, there's no right or wrong. And one phase kind of informs the other. So it's very flexible, and you're moving in and out rather than the 5 stages.
Right. That makes sense, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And what techniques and strategies can bereaved people use to get to a place in their life where they can live with their grief and have a sense of peace about their loss?
That's a great question. And so often the people around the support people, they want to help. And they sometimes feel that their way of helping is the right way to help.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. And there's nothing like an active state of grief to teach you how to have a voice. Mm-hmm. And there are gifts in one's grief. And maybe the gift of having a voice is one of those pieces, to be able to say to someone, look, this is not helping me. This is what would help me. I know you want to help.
Yeah.
If you could call me at 8 o'clock in the morning, I need that more than dinner at 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
And so that's to be able to tell people what you need, and sometimes you don't know what you need, but you rule out what works, what doesn't work, and then you're able to really access that within you. And once you can access that, you're on your way to kind of having a relationship with your grief, where your grief is not an enemy, but rather informs you of what you need. So it's being clear about your needs.
Right. And what advice do you have for people grieving during holidays, for example, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, days that are particularly difficult when you're missing a loved one?
Plan, plan, plan. Take out that calendar, mark the calendar for the dates that are the most important. Holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and plan for them. The first year, it's a year of firsts. It's like a baby walking. You're gonna get up. You're gonna fall. Every day is your first time having experienced that trauma, having experienced that loss. It's your first day, that first year. So, it's important to mark your calendar and then put it in your phone as a reminder a week before, 2 weeks before. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, I need to plan for this. I don't want to be alone, or I want to be alone. I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to make plans with friends. I'm going to go to the special restaurant where we all used to hang out. Or I'm going to get a massage, so that there's self-care during those times. And a lot of times what will happen is when people don't plan, that self-care really goes down the drain. You're sucked into the vortex of the depression and the anxiety, the sadness, that sense of not belonging, and that role confusion starts to come up again, like, who am I? If you plan, that who am I has less of a chance of existing, which is a great thing. So you're really taking control. And don't just do this calendar for the first year. Do it the second year, the third year, the fourth year, and it will then become part of what you do.
Excellent advice.
Good.
I can't thank you enough for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure all of our viewers are going to benefit so well from your insights and your expertise.
Oh, thank you so much. And they can always go onto my website, ednathan.com, and there's a free meditation that they can download. So, so please join me in the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Courtney from Love Lives On. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more ways we can celebrate our loved ones' lives now and forever.